Уважаемые участники, мы начинаем через 3 минуты. Просьба занимать места. Если кому-то нужен синхронный перевод, то, пожалуйста, справа от экрана можно взять приемники.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start our event. If you need the simultaneous interpretation, please take the headset. Thank you.
Уважаемые участники, мы начинаем через минуту. Займите.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, we start in a minute. Please take your seats closer to the stage in the center. There are lots of places available for you to see better the screen.
Уважаемые участники,
Dear participants, let us start.
уважаемые участники, мы начинаем.
Dear participants, let us start our first session. I'm happy to welcome Ms. Anna Maria Chkonia, the moderator of the first session. Good morning, dear guests, dear friends, dear speakers. Let me welcome you today in our conference of Eurasian Development Bank. It's dedicated to the promotion of sustainable development in Central Asia. My name is Anna Maria Chkoni. I'm the managing director, the head of International Cooperation Department of Eurasian Development Bank. And the first half of the day will be moderated by me. I will moderate the opening ceremony and the first session as well. Dear friends, today we speak about Central Asia. And from one side, we will speak it with the voices from Central Asia, and from another side, with the voices of the key stakeholders working in this region to make the life of people in this region better. I don't want to take much time. That's why let me present for the welcoming remarks our first speakers. The chairperson of the Eurasian Economic Commission, the chairman of the board, Mr. Bakirjan Sagintayev. Bakirjan Abdirovich Sagintayev. And the vice minister from the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Mr. Aslan Abdrahimov, and UN Under-Secretary General for Economic and Social Affairs, Mr. Li Jinhua. And now I pass the floor to Mr. Bakirjan Sagintayev. Please, the floor is yours. Thank you, Anna Maria. Good morning, dear participants of the forum. I'm very much glad to welcome you in our city of Almaty to promote sustainable development, to have flourishing future. And the main issues of Central Asia, and why am I here? Because the Eurasian Economic Union includes Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan is the observer in this union. And also we collaborate tightly with Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan. That's why this topic is very close to us. Let me welcome the participants of our conference promoting sustainable development in Central Asia. This is in global arena and locally is a highly important topic. It impacts all aspects of people's lives, including health, agriculture, infrastructure, and many other spheres. Since this topic is highly important, in 2022, the heads of the governments took decision to develop economic relations to mitigate climate change risks. Within the frames of Paris Convention and Agreement, it is based on the principle of Eurasian Economic Union functioning. Speaking about the mitigation of climate change, governments are reinforcing the relations and sovereignty. Taking into consideration particularities of national economies and aspects, it is highly important to exchange experience, to use innovative technologies, to have low carbon development. The main focus is made on the aspects of climate agenda. To develop these initiatives in countries using the platform of Eurasian Economic Commission, we approved approaches of climate agenda, and we approved the roadmap as well. There is a bank of digital initiatives and technologies. We prepared taxonomy in Eurasian Economic Union. There is an active position on implementation of UNDP SDG for 2030, and one of the goals is to mitigate climate change impact, and it could be an additional factor to impact the indices of sustainable development goals. And economic development is showing good progress in reaching of SDGs. In the current year, the Eurasian Economic Commission started to prepare a new report on SDG of UN 2.0. In September, I visited the UN office in New York, and I met Mr. Li Jinhua. He will give us a welcome speech online, and also ECOSOS chairperson, the ambassador of Canada. All those aspects were discussed together, and it will be discussed in the agenda of today as well. And for the next year, we will address it in our agenda in order to discuss all that in details. I'm sure that our today's conference will promote exchange of opinions and generation of new ideas, because climate change requires collective efforts from all countries and each person in particular. Only joint efforts can minimize the negative impact and develop a sustainable future for the next generation. Let me wish you to have successful, productive work. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, Mr. Bakjan Sagintayev. Dear friends, dear speakers, almost 1 year ago, we gathered in Almaty to discuss challenges of water resources in Central Asia. During this year, there were many changes in this region, and this region is getting dynamic development as well. Let me invite the Vice Minister from the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Mr. Aslan Abdraimov. Thank you. Thank you, Anna Maria. As you mentioned, this year we had enough of water. Sometimes we had a lot of water availability. There were some peaks and splashes. Dear participants, let me welcome you in this important high-level meeting. Thank you for inviting me. For us, being the new ministry, it's highly important to speak about the water politics. We believe that water is the basis for any type of environment aspect. This is the basis of our life. And it's about economic and social processes. And the address from our ministry is that we should develop further and in depth our political aspects, because water resources are to be saved, preserved, and carefully used. For that, we need appropriate investment into the water infrastructure. In this context, Eurasian Development Bank is the basis of our processes. We have very close relations with Eurasian Development Bank, and we would like to expand those relations and to have wider scope of collaboration. And it's important to synchronize not only the financing, but also we should have an understanding. Because our ecosystem is very fine, and the issues having in Central Asia, it's not only our issues, but also for the whole Central Asia. That's why we need efforts from all the countries. In that regards, this is a high importance of Eurasian Development Bank in the segment of Central Asia. We should promote water initiatives within the frames of the water arteries, our joint routes. And Kazakhstan is subject to water changes. Mainly, the water resources are coming into Kazakh territory from other countries. We are very much sensitive in that regard. We are in the chain, and we are the very first who are interested to generate the water agenda. Also, the current efficient strategies from our agenda are highly important. There are not so many of them. We will try to expand them as well in order to discuss all those issues. And let me welcome all participants of this important conference. Let me wish you to have a proper understanding, exchange of experience, and to have complete information that can be later on used in our practical work. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, Mr. Abraimov. Pity to say Mr. Lee Junhua could not join us, but virtually he supported our event, Mr. UN Under Secretary General. And let me present his online welcome remarks. This is Mr. Lee Junhua, UN Under Secretary General for Economic and Social Affairs.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to address this important event on sustainable development in Central Asia. Your decision to focus your discussions on investment is both welcome and timely, as financing challenges lie at the heart of the current global sustainable development prospects. Indeed, we are in a sustainable development crisis. A financing divide is fueling a development divide, compounding weak post-pandemic economies and escalating climate crisis and growing geopolitical tensions. Only 17% of measurable SDG targets are likely to be met by 2030. Financing gaps are large and growing at around $4 trillion annually. The international financial architecture has failed to adequately protect the developing countries in this moment of a compounded crisis. They are left with a little physical space, unable to unlock the resources needed to invest in sustainable development. The fourth International Conference on Financing for Development, to be held in Spain the next year, represents a unique opportunity to help close these gaps and reform the international financial architecture. Dear colleagues, let me highlight the two areas where the FFD4 could provide decisive progress. First, we need to stress the potential of the public development banks to contribute to SDG financing. PDBs are uniquely positioned to play a leading role in this transformation by providing concessional finance where it is most needed. and they can leverage private finance to shift the whole financial system towards the SDGs. FFD4 will also look at the concrete options to strengthen the role of the public development banks in the international financial architecture. Development banks in your region are already taking steps in this direction. This is precisely the leadership we need. Second, we need to recognize the importance of the regional financing arrangements and the regional development banks in a broader international financial architecture. FFD4 will consider ways to strengthen this regional aspect. We need collaborations across all levels of the financing, national, regional, and global, to close the financing gaps and get the SDGs back on track. I look forward to working with all of you to turn these ideas into action and achieve our common goals. I thank you.
Уважаемые гости, мы потихонечку подходим к концу нашей церемонии.
Dear guests, and now we have our opening ceremony. We thank the speakers for the welcoming remarks. And now we start the first session that will take place in English. Сейчас, подожди, чуть-чуть. Сейчас.
Уважаемые
Session today dedicated to partnerships in Central Asia. It's a fascinating region. It's a region of crossroads. And it's a region where we see that global issues have really come to play in a regional sense. Today, our discussion is going to be built around what these partnerships can mean for the region and how we can effectively use them to solve global challenges through local lenses. The aim of the session and the unusual setup that we have today is to spur as much discussion as we possibly can. I want us today to share the challenges, the opportunities, the thoughts and the insights that we have, and what we can do as the international development community to overcome these challenges together. We have a big mission today, and I suggest that we, without further ado, start the first session. And I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our stellar speakers for our plenary session. First, the chairman of the management board of the Eurasian Development Bank, Mr. Nikolai Podguzov. A round of applause, please. Vice chairman of the management board and chief economist of the Eurasian Development Bank, Mr. Evgeny Vinokurov. Regional Projects Coordinator, World Bank Regional Office, Mr. Dmitry Petrin. Acting Director General, Islamic Development Bank Institute, Dr. Sami. Director of the Multilateral and Program Country Partnerships at the UN World Food Programme, Mr. Stanley Samkange. Deputy Resident Representative at the UNDP Kazakhstan, Mr. Sukhrob Khojimatov. Today we are also joined online by two distinguished speakers, the Principal Regional Cooperation Specialist of Central and West Asia of the Asian Development Bank, Ms. Zulfiya Karimova, as well as Service Chief for the Near East and North Africa, Europe and Central Asia Service at the FAO Investment Center, Ms. Wafa El Khouri. Ladies and gentlemen, although the curtains are closed, I can assure you that we today are having our constructive dialogue on the inspiring backdrop of the mountains of Almaty. This is not an accident. And I feel like the strength of the mountains that have been standing for years should inspire us as the international development community to continue on our path of solving these challenges in the region and to inspire us to take on braver tasks to reach our goals and aims in Central Asia. Without further ado, I would like to kindly ask the chairman of the EDB Management Board, Mr. Nikolai Podguzov, to open our conference and our session with his keynote speech. Please.
Thank you very much, Anna Maria. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming to Almaty to discuss global challenges for specific region, for Central Asia, our domestic region. We are Eurasian Development Bank, 18 years old, based in Almaty as our headquarters. And several Central Asian countries are active members, and Kazakhstan is co-founder of the bank. That is why we are pretty much concentrated on what is going on in the region and trying to drive forces to answer global challenges which are laying behind Central Asia. The Eurasian Development Bank is proud to host this conference. This event is an opportunity to exchange experience in promoting sustainable development in Central Asia. This is, and I think that together we can continue providing joint efforts to answer global challenges. A year ago, during a previous roundtable, we discussed the future of water in Central Asia. And since then, we had several big steps forwards in solving and answering this challenge. I would name a few initiatives and decisions. First of all, the government of Kazakhstan approved the concept of water resources management system until 2030. It aims to use water-saving irrigation technologies on up to 150,000 hectares per year. Secondly, the Coordination Council of Partners for Water Sector Development was established. It will pull together the financial resources of the state MDBs, international organizations, and donor community. Islamic Development Bank is committed itself to improve water efficiency in Kazakhstan. The first joint project between Eurasian Development Bank, UNDP, and Ministry of Water Resources of Republic of Kazakhstan has already started. Uzbekistan started a series of projects aimed to save 15 cubic kilometers of water over the next 5 years. The government is planning to 8-fold increase in drip irrigation of 600,000 hectares. As a result, Uzbekistan intends to increase water efficiency management by at least 25%. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan signed an agreement for construction of Kambarata 1 hydropower plant. The World Bank provides assistance to this cross-border public-private project. Summing up, I dare to say that MDBs are making a big impact in helping Central Asia in its structural challenges. Today, let's talk about such strategic areas as MDB cooperation, connectivity, and climate finance. It is important to address global challenges in ways relevant to local contexts. I use the term globalization to describe our approach. What do I mean by that? Then addressing global challenges at the regional level, it is crucial to take into account unique regional features, needs, and constraints of the region. For example, Central Asia shares many challenges with other regions. At the same time, efficient response to these challenges should be region-specific. The global challenge of sustainable economic growth is particularly relevant to Central Asia, but the regional goal is to achieve not only sustainable, but rapid growth. It is needed to shorten the income gap with the rich countries. Stable and fast economic growth in Central Asia improves quality of life and raises the region's global profile. The second challenge is connectivity. Central Asia is a region where 5 out of 5 countries are landlocked, and some of them are double landlocked. Better connectivity will help transform landlocked countries into land-linked countries. That is why the EDB is advancing the Eurasian transport network concept. Its basic premise is that connection of east-west and north-south transport corridors gives rise to synergies. International transit traffic may increase by 40% specifically due to the interconnection of corridors. This creates new opportunities for logistics, new routes through fares. This is a historic chance for Central Asia to become the transport crossroads of Eurasia. The third challenge is access to water. The region currently loses 40% of its its irrigation water and more than 50% of its drinking water. The EDB believes that solving the challenges of the nexus challenges is crucial to the well-being of Central Asia. It calls for integrated approach. What kind of integration approach? First, this is a need to address the 5 to 12 cubic kilometers irrigation water deficit. As I said earlier, a lot has been done in Central Asia over the past year. Second, to ensure that 10 million people in the region have access to safe drinking water. Third, in order to meet the growing energy demand, it is necessary to unlock the hydropower potential of the region. Addressing all these challenges requires deep knowledge of the region, unique project expertise, substantial capital investments, and cooperation. According to our strategy 22-26, the EDB intends to strengthen the role in Central Asia. We provide about $2 billion yearly of sustainable development investments. In 2023, the share of EDB in total non-sovereign financing in Central Asia amounted 34%. EDB structures and finance a number of key large-scale investment projects in such areas as Eurasian transport network, Central Asia energy and water, and food security. These activities will help solve the regional structural challenges. To sum up, the EDB strategy is fully aligned with the national MDBs and international organization agenda. It provides plenty of ground for cooperation for our mutual benefit. I see a strong demand from developing countries for financing development projects. The cooperation of multilateral development banks has untapped potential. It should become an effective mechanism to assist countries in need. The EDB belongs to a family of multilateral development banks. It consists of several dozens multilateral financial institutions. The MDB family can be described in terms of English football league system. We have so-called Premier League with big institutions like World Bank, ADB, AIIB, EBRD, Islamic Development Bank, who have huge capital, massive economic impact, and they formulate global challenges, and they formulate question, what do global challenges mean? At the same time, we have second league, like championship, where regional and sub-regional banks are presented. And this community of banks usually answers the question how to lend global challenges to local context and how to execute, how to answer global challenges on the land. And the cooperation between these two leagues is very important to address global challenges properly. Should we cooperate and why? definitely we should cooperate. And the sustainable future in Asia and Pacific requires constructing large infrastructure projects, hydropower plants, roads, other infrastructure. Not a single financial institution would finance a multi-billion project alone. Development institutions should jointly mobilize financial resources for such projects. And in general, I would mention 7 areas of cooperation between big and not that big and regional financial institutions. We need to cooperate in mobilizing capital to share the burden of large development projects. We need to cooperate in capital markets to raise funds more effectively. Joint promoting, we need to promote local currency financing to reduce risk for our member states. Joint project expertise is necessary to share what we do best. Joint research projects, another area of cooperation, joint and coordinated technical assistance to kick off new projects together, and definitely jointly implementing cross-border projects. This is an area where it is impossible not to cooperate. I would like to use and to urge multilateral development banks and international organizations to work together in all levels. Our joint efforts to develop Central Asia will make life better for people in our countries. This is our main goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Indeed, I completely support what is being said in terms of the fact that we, as the international development community, as the MDBs, we have strength and efficiency in numbers. Building onto that, what I would like to now speak about is the fact that for effective partnerships to be forged and developed, there is a dire need of coordination between multilateral development banks and other international organizations. This coordination, among other things, is built on a clear understanding of what our other partner institutions are doing in the region, what are the projects that are for them first priority, and an exchange of information that allows us to clearly understand where are those specific points of common interest that allow us to pool expertise, capital, and resources. To this end, the Eurasian Development Bank has developed a database of non-sovereign financing by international financial institutions covering 11 Eurasian countries, with all of the Central Asian countries being included into that base. I would now like to invite our second keynote speaker, the Vice Chairman of the Management Board and the EDB Chief Economist, Mr. Evgeny Vinokurov, to present the database and how it could be used to better coordinate between organizations working in the region in order to solve global issues through local lenses. Mr. Evgeny.
Indeed, Anna Maria. My chair has talked about the challenges, and I'll be talking about the playing field. Your Excellency, Mr. Sargentayev, Your Excellency, Dr. Sami, Your Excellency, Chairman, Mr. Podguzov, dear participants. I'm not able to thank the organizers for inviting me because I'm the organizer, but I would like to thank you all for coming, and some of you have come from very far away, and we do appreciate that very much. Today we launch our new analytical product, which is called EDB Non-Sovereign Financing Database, shortly NSF. And we specifically look forward to cooperate with our fellow IFIs and MDBs on that quantitative analysis of our common development activities. I'll proceed as the following. I'll outline the database, then I'll talk about its some research findings based on that, and I will show two very short videos on the database and on the dashboard. So let's move forward. What's the database look like? It's 1,700 IFI operations. It's the timeline from 2008 until today. 11 countries of the Eurasian regions are covered, the totality of Central Asia, the totality of South Caucasus, Russia, Belarus, and Mongolia. We cover 10 IFIs, Asian Development Bank, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, IBEC, IFC, EBRD, IIB, MDB, EIB, EDB itself, and BSTDB. And the database contains a very detailed information on each project, 54 columns with quantitative and qualitative information per each project, which allows for very detailed analysis. Why non-sovereign finance? Well, for several reasons. First of all, EDB specializes in non-sovereign finance. Essentially what we do is non-sovereign finance, almost 100%. But also because our member states and developing countries around the world specifically require IFI community to provide to them more non-sovereign finance. Because sovereign finance is good for hard infrastructure, for energy, connectivity, water, social, while with non-sovereign finance you can do all of that, but you can also finance industry and agriculture in a big way. And we are convinced that, for example, Central Asia really needs to close the gap to industrialize itself. Currently, there is a huge, well, a very substantial gap even between Central Asia and the middle-income economies around the world, let alone developing economies. This gap has to be closed. And for that, the countries of Central Asia need non-sovereign finance. Our database contains information on the type of financing, loan, equity, technical assistance, bonds, guarantees. It contains information on the sectors and a lot of stuff on currency. Why? Because our, the EMDs, developing economies around the world, cry out loud, they say, IFI community, we need more finance in local currencies. And that's why our database provides 11 columns only on currency, including hard, local, and mixed finance. And it also allows to differentiate green projects, on-lending, co-financing, so various mechanisms of financial cooperation, but also to assess, to estimate the project impact. Next. This is how the dashboard looks like. I'll show it at the end. And next. And now let me talk about the few takeaways, few preliminary takeaways from the database. Some of it is pleasant, but some of it is really not. Please have a look at the graph on the right side. It combines the data from EDB NSF database and EFSD data on sovereign finance in the same geography of 11 countries. As you can see, in the standard year, the sovereign finance takes about 60%, and non-sovereign finance takes about 40%. In crisis years, when countries have to deal with the budget gaps and balance of payment crisis, it goes up naturally to address the gaps, but then it goes down in the so-called good years. But it's not the point. The point is the dynamics. Non-sovereign finance in the region has gone up 12% over the last 16 years. However, if we count it in real terms, inflation adjusted, that's an actual decrease of 21%. By the way, sovereign finance is flat in real terms over the last 2 decades, while non-sovereign finance actually decreased 20% in real terms, and it doesn't look good. If we measure that by the percentage of GDP of our economies, this percentage is quite modest. So what I'm saying is that the current G20 discussions are under the motto, MDB system has to be bigger, better, and more effective. And our analysis, based on that database, entirely confirms this hypothesis. We, as a system of IFIs, indeed have to do more to be bigger, better, and more effective. For that, we need more capital, sure, but we also need to be more energetic, and we need more financial innovation. A few more takeaways. Geographically, IFIs have shifted their focus to Central Asia. Now 72% of non-sovereign financing goes to Central Asia. They have also shifted their focus to electric power and green projects. There are several reasons under that. You see electric power accounted for 1% 16 years ago, and now it's 40% of entire MDB IFI portfolio in non-sovereign finance. Why? The first reason is renewables. You can finance renewables by means of the non-sovereign finance. The second reason is natural. It's the green and climate, focusing on green and climate projects. This figure on the right confirms that 44% of the current IFI non-sovereign finance goes to green projects, compared to 4% in 2008. But there's also a telling figure on the financing in local currency, and I stress developing countries around the world want to get more finance in local currencies. That's the request. It used to be 30% in 2008, and now it's 38%. So there is progress, but this progress is slow. Next slide, please. Institution-wise, EDB, EBRD, and ADB take the lead in non-sovereign finance in the region. EDB with $4.2 billion over 2 years, EBRD 2.1, ADB 0.8, closely followed by IFC. Let me now show you how the dashboards and the database look like. Well, the database is very simple and easy to use. It's Excel file with many possibilities for playing out with data. Let's take a look at that. It contains 3 main worksheets: contents, methodology, and operations. The introductory information is understandable, then methodology. Now the main page is operations. Each row represents a separate non-sovereign operation. Each operation has 54 features. We can use the filters on row 3 to look up the IFI non-sovereign operations in a specific country, sector, such features as green finance, and then they can be combined in any way you like. The dashboard. We need to go to the front page of our website, EDB website, then to research page, then to non-sovereign finance database. The dashboard has 6 diagrams. At the very top of the dashboard, you can find the filters that alter all the diagrams. For example, let's choose Kazakhstan. Now we can see the data for Kazakhstan, and then we do more detailed analysis. For example, we choose green projects. Now you can see results for green projects in Kazakhstan. You may choose several countries at the same time, and now we'll see how the results look like for Central Asia as a region. In addition, you can make an even more detailed analysis by choosing a specific sector for the whole sub-region, and that's now to be electric power for Central Asia. At the bottom of the dashboard, you'll find instrument and currency-based diagrams. You can also choose a specific part within one diagram. For example, if you want to see the dynamics of financing only in local currencies. Let me conclude. As you see, if we delve into the quantitative analysis of IFI activities, we see some pleasant things, but we also see some not so much pleasant things. We, as a system of IFIs, indeed have to be bigger, better, and more effective. So the G20 motto is correct. That's the database proves that. And for that purpose, we make this database as of today available with the dashboard and the analysis. And we would like to invite all our fellows, MDBs and IFIs, the expert community and journalists to cooperate with us on the quantitative and qualitative analysis of our common activities in development finance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Evgeny. Mr. Vinokurov has concluded the block of keynote speakers for our session. So if you don't mind, I'm going to jump at the opportunity to maybe ask a few questions. And I kindly implore our audience that if you would like to ask a question to one of our keynote speakers, to also do the same. So, Evgeny, as I understand, today is the official launch of the database. And we speak a lot about the fact that multilateral development banks need to be bigger, need to be better, need to be more effective. In practical terms, because today we're going to be speaking a lot about what are the practical steps that we need to take as a development community to solve global challenges, what I'm interested in knowing is, referring to this database that was created, it's a unique analytical product, and we understand this. Where do you see that MDBs and international organizations can do those practical steps in order to cooperate? So for example, I mean, today we're joined by the World Bank, by the Asian Development Bank, by the Islamic Development Bank, by the AIIB. What can we do coming out of this room together to ensure that this database has the most kind of, impact in terms of its analytical power, and how we can put that into practical measures?
Well, first of all, as a system, we need more capital. Let's be clear about that. We multiply capital given out to us by shareholders by the factor of 3 to 4. But we need more capital to start with. But we also need to be more efficient on the internal basis. More financial innovation, more mobilization of private capital. And that's where the non-sovereign finance comes in play, because non-sovereign finance is specifically about the mobilization of private capital. And as my chairman has talked about, we have to cooperate. He singles out 7 domains of cooperations between MDB, which provides synergy for the whole system.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Mr. Podguzov, I'd like to as well address a question to you, because I know that as well, being gathered here today, we have a unique opportunity to have dialogue on what are the practical steps that the international development community is taking to solve challenges together. Can you tell us a little bit about the Eurasian Development Bank? What is being done? How are we working with our partners? Maybe you have some examples of projects that we've done, technical assistance or investment projects. Could you tell us a little bit about the activity that we have undertaken over the past maybe year?
Thank you very much, Anna Maria. This is quite extensive question. Probably it's will take more time to explain the whole activity, but generally speaking, I would mention 3 main routes of activity of the bank. As the bank, we are sub-regional bank trying to be regional. That is why we need more participants from the region, like Uzbekistan, who intends to join the bank hopefully until the end of the year, as we are only on the final stage of the process. But other countries of the region are needed in the bank to address our challenges commonly and properly and effectively for the benefit of all countries. But generally speaking, our strategy is aimed at three dimensions. First of all, to improve connectivity of the region. As I mentioned, many countries are landlocked, and efficiency of logistic gives efficiency of economies, reduces costs, increases standards of life on the final stage. Water balance challenges are key, and I'm proud to say that we've started moving towards the right direction this year, as many countries are trying to address this challenge both on national level and trying to gather together to think and to undertake joint action. This is very important. And finally, food security, food logistic is important, as on the one hand, the region is more or less okay with food security, as most of countries are almost 100% self-sufficient in terms of food. But we are surrounded by China, India, big countries where we can also help to solve food security issues. Middle East also quite interested in cooperation in this area. So these are three dimensions, but nowadays it is impossible to implement only these three strategy topic. Digitalization should go through all of them. Soft infrastructure should accompany every strategic direction. So this is probably the fourth activity of the bank, to provide soft infrastructure and to complement each our strategic dimension. We are trying to set up ourselves as a classic international financial organization. For us, it's very important to cooperate with other MDBs, and for example, we have in very close cooperation with World Bank, Islamic Development Bank. We have a number of projects with European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, for example, Almaty Airport or Bakat Ring Road. Definitely, the idea of globalization comes to our mind, is that we need to bring global resources to Eurasian region, and to try to help to invest these resources in the most effective way. That is why we are very much keen on cooperation. That is in brief our ideas how to develop the region with the help of Eurasian Development Bank.
Yes, thank you very much. I can see that His Excellency Mr. Sagintayev has a question or a remark to make, so please jump into the discussion.
Я на русском буду говорить.
I will speak Russian. Thank you. Mr. Podguzov started to speak about Eurasian Bank for Development, EDB. So in my specificity, I was the supervisor of the bank, and now I am the chair of Eurasian Economic Commission. So we interact with EDB and communicating with colleagues from Kyrgyzstan, Armenia, Belarus. I understood that our colleagues always perceive Eurasian Development Bank, the donor, mainly means cheap money or free of charge money. No, it's a commercial bank, even it's a development bank, so we should perceive it differently. We should bring such projects that are highly needed for all parties, not just to have an additional budget. Our colleagues said, yes, we do understand that, but our countries are not as strong as Kazakhstan. We are weaker. That's why you are to finance us. And today there is a proper understanding, and there is a competition to get that financing, that money. And having Mr. Podguzov as a head of that work, all stakeholders understood that it's better to practice a joint way instead of just begging for money. So that's why the task of our union is to develop our regions economically. That's why we are in tight collaboration. Thank you.
Indeed, I think that this is something as well that we have come to understand in the international development community, that very often some organizations can look at this as a zero-sum game, but in essence, by pooling resources, we actually make things a lot more effective, and by coordinating, at least, we can thread out those potential risks of us doing the same work twice and maybe not doing it as effectively as we would have if we were to do it together. Thank you very much. I see that from the audience, there are no questions at this moment in time. If anybody changes their mind, you will have an opportunity to ask a question later today at our Q&A session after all of the speakers. And with your permission, I'd like to now move to the next block of speakers. So we had our two keynote speakers that I would like to thank and ask maybe for a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we're moving on to the block of speakers from other multilateral development banks, partner institutions with which we actively work, we actively exchange information, that have also been present at our previous events, such as the event that I spoke about earlier today, touching upon issues of water in Central Asia. Today, we will be joined by, during this session, 3 of such multilateral development banks: the Islamic Development Bank Institute, the World Bank, as well as the Asian Development Bank. These are 3 institutions that are very prominent in the Central Asian region and that are doing a lot to help the region solve their global challenges. I would like to now invite our esteemed speaker from the Islamic Development Bank Institute, Dr. Sami Al-Suwalim, to discuss how to pave the road to sustainable development and rapid growth to combat poverty in the region, because this is an issue and a challenge that worries a lot of regions in the world, but I feel like the Central Asian identity of the challenge is something a little bit different. So please, Dr. Sami.
Thank you, Anna, and thanks to the organizers. I think I can thank the organizer, but not part of the organizer. We have many common member countries with the Islamic Development Bank and the Eurasian Development Bank. We have very close and productive relationship with the EDB and other development organizations as well. So let me start with a quote from Arthur Lewis, who's a Nobel Prize in economics and well-experienced development economist. He said, the fundamental cure for poverty is not money, but knowledge. So the starting point is actually human capital. That's the starting point for not only fighting poverty, but also the road for prosperity. So as we plan for building infrastructure projects, we should keep in mind that we should, before, plan for building the engineers and the managers who will build, operate, and manage these projects. Now, this will create a chicken and egg problem. How to start, where to start? Obviously, the process will be iterative. We have to start little here, little there, and then gradually the process will be moving. Human capital, in my opinion, would be a very practical way to implement the glocalization strategy, because that's how to localize the knowledge and the expertise required for the country to develop or for the region to develop. By building the human capital, that's how we move on and make it within the country or the region the ability to move forward. Now, there was some comments on the gap in sustainable development, and being an economist and trained in new classical economic theory, I can definitely raise some concern. No matter how much we speak about sustainable development and how much conferences and how much project we do, if the students at the university are taught in 101 economics that the objective of a rational consumer is to maximize utility of consumption, and the objective of the firm is to maximize the shareholders' value, we are basically, attacking the essence of sustainable development. Those students, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, will become officials somewhere, and then we have to start all over again, building the awareness and understanding of the issues of sustainable development. So it all starts with knowledge. From an Islamic point of view, the first phrase from the Quran was "Iqra," read. So reading, knowledge is the first step in this 1,000 journey trip. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sami. I straight away remembered the older adage that in order to feed a hungry man, you should not give him a fish, you should teach him how to fish. And I think that this is something that indeed probably Homo economicus has probably forgotten about that, or is too busy maximizing utility. This is a very interesting thought that I think that needs to be heard more often when we discuss sustainable development, and how to actually place the human being that we all are at the very center of this development agenda. Thank you once again. The next speaker of our session is Mr. Dimitri Petrin. As I've already introduced him, the Regional Projects Coordinator at the World Bank Regional Office, a very active office in Central Asia that is tackling very ambitious challenges and trying to help the region overcome them. Mr. Petrin participated at the EDB roundtable last year that I've already mentioned, and made a splash, I would say, and excuse me for the pun, made a splash while discussing water issues in Central Asia. A year later, taking stock, Dimitri, could you please tell us a little bit about what the World Bank is now viewing the water challenge in Central Asia? How is it being seen? And maybe speak a little bit about the other challenges that we see in the region, and what this huge institution, this global institution, is doing to help overcome those challenges.
Thank you, Anna Maria. Can you start the presentation? Yes, thank you. I just want to start from saying that you can see this orange scarf, not because I'm a big fan of the Dutch football team, which I am, but because we're now in the middle of 16 days action time against domestic violence. And this is a very important topic for Central Asia, and I encourage everybody to be aware, raise this awareness, and help us all to overcome this important issue, not only those around those 16 days, but actually during the whole year and years ahead of us. Coming back to the regional challenges, I mean, for me, I'm putting it as we have an ideal storm coming. And this ideal storm is coming from three major aspects, which is the water shortage, energy shortage, and climate change implications. And that is actually even more difficult in terms of the geopolitical environment, and mainly the impact of the Kush-Tepa Canal, which is under construction in Afghanistan, as well as the need to be committed to the obligations on greenhouse gas emissions, the zero carbon neutrality, and other sustainable development goals, which all Central Asian countries are trying hard to fulfill. Though Anna Maria said I'm going to talk a lot about water, I'm actually not. Because all you need to do about the water is go to the stand, take the report of the Eurasian Development Bank on irrigation management, which was done last year, and probably has the best summary of the current situations and actions which has to be taken. This graph is from that report, and it shows that the major challenge coming is that the seasonal shortage of water may become chronic very soon. The important element of the approach is that if nothing is done. So the question is, what has to be done in order to overcome this water shortage and the climate change implications, which are not about just the lack of water, but about the agriculture, about the productivity being decreased, about the irrigation water being evaporated more quickly, and about the seasonal disbalance, sometimes more water, sometimes less water. In that area, the key element of the equation is obviously the need to overcome the inefficient water management. Because the savings there, the losses there are from 40 to 60%, depending on the country, on the region, but at least 40%. That means that with the proper investment, this gap will allow more water to be used efficiently for agriculture production. And what is most importantly, and that will be the topic of my today's talk, is about the energy losses. Because water sector is one of the most energy efficient sectors in Central Asia, and this efficiency is not high. So when we're trying to deal with the problems of energy shortage, the change from pumping, the more efficient pumping in the water sector and irrigation is one of the big potential areas for improvement. What is also important to say is that it's not just about the investment, because it's about the coordination of activities and the information and digitalization of the sector. Because in order to achieve efficiency, you need to have trust between the water users and water suppliers, between countries. This trust cannot be done without proper data. This data is now either missing or not shared properly. So the efforts on regional digitalization of water accounting and potentially water management is one of the biggest priorities, which alone can basically substitute and mitigate the effects of the Kush-Tepa potential decrease of water supply. If we're coming to the energy, then we have to be clear that there are two aspects of that situation. One is the energy deficit, which all countries except Turkmenistan are, but also the need to change the energy mix, because we cannot afford to be reliant on fossil fuel as it is right now without using the hydropower potential. So basically we need hydropower not just to increase the renewable share, but also to the and basically help to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, but also the need to balance the electrical grid. Because the solar and wind renewable energy will not be sufficient alone to balance the Central Asia country. And with this idea goes the concept that such efforts could not be done in the region without cooperation, because hydropower potential is mostly located in the upstream countries, though the fossil fuel economies are mostly downstream countries. So that is the big potential for the cooperative actions, for joint efforts, and we're very glad that with the lot of help of all development partners who are here and also many others, the countries are now implementing Kambarata 1 as such global joint water energy multi-MDBs project. When we're talking about Nexus, I have a problem. The problem is that in Russian, at least, it does not make much sense. So it's very difficult to understand what is meant by water energy nexus. It's a nice term, we have to use it, it's a correct term, but we need to explain what it is. So we put a lot of efforts under the Central Asia Water Energy Program on trying to decipher the nexus terminology into some operational things, from concept to what does it mean to the countries. And here, the key from the way we see it lies in the attempt to model situation, to model the interaction between the two sectors. So we're developing the integrated Central Asia, Aral Sea Basin water energy model, putting together all water facilities on Amudarya and Sirdarya rivers, all energy potential of the Central Asian countries, and seeing what is the potential with the climate change implications under different scenarios, with the investment plans up to 2050. And then seeing what are the options and possibilities for decisions to be made and the implications on energy production and water availability for irrigation, thus agriculture production. So these are some very preliminary results. The work is ongoing. It is not yet finished. We are still progressing with that. But basically, even now, we can see that the potential is huge. The agriculture production growth can be achieved with the current water supply of at least 60%. The energy production, the hydropower generation can be increased at least 40%. That's with the planned investment. That's what with the investment announced. And here we have a win-win situation. So when we are doing, because you see the current production square is in the middle and the frontier is far away. So there is a lot of opportunities to increase both water and energy. That is easy situation. It's just a matter on what is the most efficient decision to do. But there would be time when there will be a trade-off. There will be a trade-off on whether to increase energy production and use water in the big rivers mainly for hydropower generation in winter, or increase water supply in summer to increase agriculture production. And here there are tough choices, because you can see that the model tells us right now that at this situation, to achieve the 4% of the agriculture production increase, which is the maximum possible at the frontier, the energy loss will be 16%. So there is a and that's about the basin together. It is better on Sirdarya, but much worse on Amudarya rivers. So it also has some country and river-specific implications. That is an area where countries have to talk to each other, coordinate their work actions, and coordinate their investment plans, choosing between social needs of agriculture and economic needs of the energy. Now, how can this be done? The only possible instrument is basically trade, increasing connectivity, increasing trade. We have very low level of trade, 2.5%, and it is not limited by the lack of investment, because only 40% of interconnections are utilized. There is utilized 60%, 40% available for trade, not utilized right now. We hope next year to start the regional trade and energy trade project with promoting at least the pilot trade and then going to balancing and full-scale trade, as in many other countries in Europe or even South Africa, southern region of Africa, where energy deficit countries are trading very efficiently. Because there are so many challenges from all aspects, the question is how to put it in a coordinated manner and how to address the climate change challenges. The bank approach to that is converting climate implications from problems to development. And that is done through the country climate development reports, which have been produced for 42 countries, and we are very proud that 3 of them are from the region. The CCDRs are completed for Kazakhstan, Kyrgyz Republic, and Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. Going to be ready for Kyrgyz Republic next year, and update for Kazakhstan is coming as well. Now, what is the idea? I mean, I will use the example of the Tajik CCDR, which is the most recent one, is that basically, if we do nothing, then the GDP losses due to climate change could be up to 6% of GDP. However, if we properly address the policy challenges, if we coordinate policy, if we do proper investment, the low carbon development path could actually increase GDP by 6%. So by proper actions planned and coordinated, we can gain 12% of GDP for Tajikistan. Those numbers are not coming from some abstract or kind of non-confirmed or analysis. This is all done based on specific models. This is just one of them. There are many of them used there, but this is like for agriculture, showing all types of climate scenarios, dry, wet, and the potential path of actions and no actions up to 2050 to achieve the increase in crop production. It is also supported, in the CCDRs are supported by specific elements of the policy actions which have to be taken at specific time to reach carbon neutrality, to reach the decarbonization goals. Some of them are easy, like no new coal plants. Some are more difficult, like introducing hydrogen. But that is the path which the country has to take in order to mitigate the climate change implications and achieve the 6% target of low carbon development. That is also, there should be one more slide. Here it is. But it's also supported by the analysis of investment needs. So the report has the full spectrum of investments which are needed, and basically the analysis shows that they are not that tremendously high. It's about $9 billion for mitigations under the low carbon development and $5 billion for adaptation. So these are the investment needs from all partners, all sectors, private and public, in order to change the -6 to +6. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dmitry. I think that you've given us actually quite a bit to think about, especially in terms of the gap for financing, and that the gap is not as colossal as we imagine it to be, which I think should as well, in essence, inspire partnership between institutions, because that allows for us to then work together to close those gaps even faster and more efficiently than we would have imagined before. Thank you once again. Now I would like to pass on to our next speaker from the Multilateral Development Bank bloc, Ms. Zulfiya Karimova, as I've already presented her. She is the Principal Regional Cooperation Specialist for Central and West Asia at the ADB. Ms. Karimova is with us now through Zoom. Zulfiya, we'd be grateful if you could just share some thoughts and insights into the ADB's approach to addressing the main regional challenges in Central Asia, as well as the wider CARIC region. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anna Maria. Just checking, can you hear me well?
We can hear you loud and clear. Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So first of all, I would like to welcome the EDB and thank for the opportunity, Eurasian Development Bank, because this is probably first opportunity personally for me to speak and contribute to this kind of high-level international conference. And My name is Zulfiya Karimova. I'm from Asian Development Bank based in Manila, Principal Regional Cooperation, and I will be happy to talk about what ADB's perspectives are, also key initiatives, especially focusing on the regional connectivity. So let me see if I can move my slides. Actually, okay,
Zulfia, we
here.
can see them, yes.
Yes, okay, good, thank you. So first of all, I would like to maybe give the bigger picture and start with the global challenges as the whole conference was talking about. In our view, there are many of them, and of course, you all know, but let me just reiterate the main ones which we're also focusing our activities to. So this is climate change, environment degradation, as you know, in Central Asia, and I will be talking about CAREC region. It's not only 5 Central Asian countries, but wider. I'll talk about this a little later. But for the climate change, of course, the whole region is because of very heavy on infrastructure, but also agriculture, water resources, and weather conditions are very fluid. Recently in Kazakhstan, for example, we had the very heavy floods. So environmental issues are very, very acute. Economic diversification and growth, we think that this is very much challenge for the region. Of course, it's global, but we also consider as a big regional challenge. And of course, many sectors like infrastructure, technology, energy are affected. So for infrastructure development specifically, and this has been already mentioned, we think that there is a need for substantial investments in transportation, in energy, communication networks, and of course, modernization infrastructure. It's not only about hard, but also soft infrastructure, and how to increase efficiency, how to reduce costs, and how to support economic development. And of course, recently, as you know, we had this COVID, health, and other pandemics, very big challenge globally, but also for the region. Another set of challenges, in our view, is what we will also need to focus is governance and institutional capacity. So we think that the strong institutions are very essential. And of course, corruption, the rule of law, all of those aspects are very important. So this is why our focus is on enhancing the public institutions capacity, developing capacity, and also the governance, strengthening the governance aspect. So socio-economic inequality is also growing, it's rising, and although we have quite high levels of economic growth, the inequalities still exist, and we think that promoting inclusive growth, improving access to education, to healthcare are very critical. And of course, needless to mention that geopolitical tensions very much affecting the region because it's influenced by major powers. There are a lot of geopolitical interest, and those tensions, of course, lead to instability. And we think that promoting dialogue, building trust, of course, fostering regional cooperation are vital to address these geopolitical issues. So just a few words about ADB's CAREC platform. CAREC, probably some of you have heard, but if not, this is an open, inclusive platform. It's informal. We don't have any charter, like ASEAN, for example, but it is already for more than 22 years. So we have 11 countries. You can see on the screen, Afghanistan, we have suspended operations temporarily. All 5 Central Asians, plus East Asia, China, Mongolia, and we also have South Caucasian countries like Azerbaijan and Georgia. So we also work very closely with development partners. Some of them are present here, EIB, EBRD, IMF, Islamic Development Bank, or UN agencies, of course, World Bank, and we hope that our cooperation will be expanding. So our overall vision for the CAREC is good neighbors, good partners, and good prospects. So regional cooperation is our focus. So ADB serves as a CAREC secretariat, but as already mentioned, we have development partners in specific sectors and focus areas. So in the CAREC, we are focusing and trying to support countries in terms of regional policy dialogue. We're also supporting through project development. We provide financing and also technical assistance. And also we promote South-South cooperation. So CAREC continues to adapt a changing global landscape. And of course, we're changing. Just this year, we did a lot of, let's say, changes in our methodology, but also approaches in terms of regional challenges. And this is probably unavoidable because they all keep changing and national priorities the same. I also want to mention about our think tank. It's called CAREC Institute. Which is based in Urumqi in China. And this is our, let's say, knowledge tool, knowledge institution for the capacity building, but also generating knowledge. So here, just to give you a snapshot, what we're focusing on the CAREC, we have 5 operational clusters on economic financial stability, which we work very closely with IMF, on trade, tourism, and economic corridors, infrastructure, economic connectivity, and also agriculture, water, and human development. And across all of those clusters, we have 3 themes. This is climate change, digitalization, and gender. And because of our main, let's say, mode of focusing on the partners and prospects for the whole region, this is our institutional framework. Again, I already mentioned we're inclusive, open platform. We welcome other institutional or development partners to join. And this is how we structured institutionally. So we have a regular ministerial conference, normally done end of the year. Last time it was in November in Astana, because Kazakhstan was a chair country. Next year, this would be in Kyrgyz Republic. We also conduct senior officials meeting. We discuss different complex projects, initiatives of the regional significance. And we also do a lot of monitoring, and we work very closely with private sector through different ways of financing and public-private dialogues. And I already mentioned about the development partners and CAREC Institute. So here again, very quickly, I don't want to go into details, but just for you to understand how we work. So this is one of our strategy for trade, because I understand that this would be one of the focus for the conference. So trade, we call it CETA. It's a CAREC integrated trade agenda. We do on trade a lot of work on trade policy and trade facilitation. And this is how we're structured. So we have 3 key pillars. Focusing on the trade expansion from the market access. Greater diversification is our second pillar, and institutional or strong institutions for trade, what we call it. And we focusing mostly and channeling our support through investment projects, policy dialogue, and also knowledge products and services. And I will mention some of you for later on in my slides, what kind of knowledge products and services we do. So for the specifically trade sector, we have RTG, which is a regional trade group, which we have annual meetings. This year, we also done it in Kazakhstan. And this is where we have trade officials, including senior officials, national focal points, get together, discuss, again, important initiatives, issues, emerging concerns. And through different ways, we have, again, trade people through RTG or regional trade group setting, but we also have a customs cooperation committee, especially focusing on trade facilitation. And then based on this, we have some specific working groups, like, for example, sanitary, phytosanitary working group, and so on and so forth. So basically, this is how we structured.
Zulfia,
Okay,
sorry, you have 1 minute left.
Okay, so I don't have enough time, but let me focus at least on few initiatives that we have done. Okay, so let me maybe skip this file, sorry, this slide, because it's general. I want to say about our recent study. We look at the 3 countries. It was Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and look specifically on the cross-border issues. What we found out that we have a lot of, let's say, we have a lot of leverage to benefit if we do it on the regional scale. So we thought that it would be really good to consider joint border controls in some PCPs, and we already have some ideas to pursue where we invite other partners to join through different ways, public-private partnerships and so on. So let me talk specifically about the CATS. This is our, let's say, let's say what we're proud of. It's CATS EYES, what we call it. It's Regional Harmonized Electronic System, which we want to introduce. Now it's being piloted. We have already done tests for the last year. We have several countries joined, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Uzbekistan now, and Turkmenistan. We invite other countries to join as well. It's really to streamline and harmonize the transit process through soft infrastructures, through single harmonized electronic regional transit system, through providing modern and risk-based affordable guarantee mechanism. So this would be benefiting all the countries, especially the private sector, small, medium enterprises, transport groups, customs administrations. So currently we are at the stage of assessing the legal and regulatory compliance requirements. And we think that this might be good potential for other donors to join. We also have information common exchange upgrade. This is the digital system. So we think that this might be something what we can discuss and take forward. Okay, let me go. CPMM, if you haven't heard about this, I would also invite you to check our website. CPMM stands for Corridor Performance Measurement and Monitoring. This is very unique empirical tool to assess the efficiency of the transport corridors, which we have 6. And I think this would be discussed later today. So this is to look at the cost and the time passing those corridors and also cross-border. So we think that this is very important. We started this back in 2009, and we have a unique set of data, which we'll be happy to share. This is our publications. Okay, I think I will probably skip this one. I just wanted to give you example of our recent collaboration. Sorry, I think it's not moving. With World Bank last time in Samarkand, last September in Samarkand, we got together for deep dive. And I think what we really need to do more to discuss what are the joint priorities aligned with the national priorities of our countries, of course, but on the regional scale, or regional significance. It might be transport, energy, and so on. And as already mentioned, we have a lot of big projects, mega projects, like, for example, Rovgon, Kambarata, and others, where we think the operation is not fully utilized and can be really expanded on digital connectivity, on climate vulnerabilities, and so on and so forth.
Thank you.
So, and
sorry,
okay,
Zulfia. Yes, unfortunately, we have run out of time. Thank you very much. I would just like to say that our second session today will be dedicated to connectivity, where the ADB will also have Zulfia's colleague, Roman Mogilevsky, will also be present. Thank you very much, Zulfia, for your interesting insights and for speaking about these practical analytical and research instruments that are being used by the ADB and that can be used by as well other partner institutions to make sure that we make our projects together more efficient. Dear guests, we have concluded the MDB block. There's a next block to come for international organizations. I would like to offer the panelists now, if anybody has any kind of comments that they would like to make, or maybe ask a question to a fellow co-panelist. If not, then I would suggest we move on to the international organization block, if there are no objections. Okay, then. As many of you know, the United Nations as an ecosystem is present globally. And obviously, Central Asia is no exception, with many of the UN's most prominent, largest agencies acting very decisively and doing a lot of very interesting initiatives in the region itself. So today, our next group of speakers all represent the UN agencies in different spheres. But nonetheless, today they're going to give us a kind of comprehensive picture or vision of what these UN agencies are doing in the region and how they're using partnerships to make what they're doing even more efficient. So first and foremost, I would like to invite Mr. Sukhrob Hojimatov as our first speaker of the International Organization Bloc. He is the Deputy Resident of the representative of the UNDP Kazakhstan. I would kindly ask Sukhrob to kick off then the international organization block and ask you to share some insights onto what collaboration between the UNDP in Kazakhstan and other MDBs looks like. This year, the Eurasian Development Bank signed a memorandum with the United Nations Development Program on a ginormous, I would call it that, water saving project in the country that we're very excited to start. And I would imagine that besides that, you have a lot of other initiatives in your pipeline. So, Sukhrob, without further ado, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anne-Maria. Dear distinguished guest, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, it is became quite traditional that Eurasian Development Bank organizing some platform for discussion around not specifically Kazakhstan, but the whole Central Asia. So that is why we do appreciate that Eurasian Development Bank organizing such an event and inviting all stakeholders, because throughout the year we have bilateral meetings with the international financial institution, but this is good that once a year we get together and discussing the issues related to the challenges and opportunities in Central Asia, and specifically this topic about the globalization resonates very well. Indeed, for UNDP, not specifically about the UNDP Kazakhstan, but UNDP regionally and globally, it is quite important to make sure that our national partners, national governments align to the commitment they made more than 10 years, less than 10 years ago regarding the Sustainable Development Goals. And as some of our panelists have mentioned already, we are moving towards achieving the SDG, but not as we were desiring in the year of 2015, by almost reaching 70% only. So I think this is the a good opportunity once again to raise the issues and discussing about the issues yeah, let me, okay, yeah. And see how it evolution is going, because in September, a couple of months ago in New York, there was a summit of future where the leaders fully understand the whole challenges that globally related to the climate change, because of the climate change, because of the geopolitical tension. Of course, they are affecting the development paradigm, and so of course we need to make sure that our cooperation and our interaction specifically with MDBs is becoming more essential. So just recently in Baku, we witnessed the COP29, where we were discussing around the issues how to make available resources for the climate change, and more importantly for the climate change adaptation. As Evgeny was mentioning in his presentation in Q&A session, that we need more resources, because resources is not specifically about the financial resources. It's about the knowledge, it's about the expertise, and about the technology. So I think this is something we need to show the collaborative effort in this regard. For UNDP specifically, we are working with the MDBs since the establishment of our organization, and though the volume in these years was not significantly increased, we're just reaching nearly $3.5 billion in our project implementation across the globe. But nevertheless, as Mr. Podguzov mentioned, it's close collaboration, not specifically with the Premier League IFIs, but also with the regional actors, because we think the great potential of the regional actors, knowing the context, knowing the challenges, and of course creating an opportunities for the local governance in the area of their operation. We are specifically focusing on our collaboration with the IFIs in the area, how to maximize the effect of investment that IFIs are doing for the local infrastructure, for the human development, and etc. And I think this is quite important, because it fully correlates with our 6 signature solutions, that we have declared in our strategic plan for the year of 2022-2025. And I think this is quite important instrument, kind of the toolbox for working, because we know that with IFIs we have collaborated very well in the issuance of the green bonds, with the green sukuks, with the blue bonds and the other instrument for the sustainable development. And I think this is something that we need to continue and work with our partners. Specifically about our work in Kazakhstan, I just wanted to highlight that we were working with Asian Development Bank and Islamic Development Bank in the number of the initiatives. Specifically, we were working with ADB during the difficult time of the COVID-19 with the Islamic Development Bank. We know that Islamic Development Bank for the region of Central Asia are mainly focused on the water and irrigation infrastructure and the transport corridor. So I think this is another pace of our cooperation, because we have implemented small kind of the smart irrigation project in Kazakhstan, which was giving a great opportunity to us. With the Eurasian Development Bank, I think this is the pilot for, not specifically for UNDP Kazakhstan, but the whole UNDP as a global organization, because it is not bilateral between Eurasian Development Bank and the UNDP, but also with the great leadership of the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation of the Republic of Kazakhstan. And we made a deep dive analysis, and thanks to Evgeny, because one of the trigger for this collaboration was the great report launched in the June 2023 about the water issues in Central Asia and how we can jointly overcome those challenges. So that is why we are not specifically discussing about the, let's say, hard work of this cooperation, but also accumulating on the soft work. As I will mention about the working with the IFIs, with the development of the toolbox of the financial instruments, just worth mentioning about our work in the area of renewable energies with the introduction of the green auctions in Kazakhstan. That was quite successful, and the government of Kazakhstan decided to continue and replicate those initiatives with other partners. So I think it is quite important to ensure the sustainability, because for the development actors, let's say 10 years ago, our main point about discussion was about how to reach out the result. So we were result oriented. But nowadays, the paradigm has shifted towards the impact orientation, because we would not specifically saying that, let's build a school, let's build a hospital in the rural area, and which will provide, some access for the health, for the education. But more importantly, what is the impact in this regard? How this health, improving of the health condition or education impacted, the local community, socio-economic development, creating some new industries, businesses in the particular area. I think this is something that we are discussing and we are collaborating, and I'm very look forward to sign an agreement, tripartite agreement with the Eurasian Development Bank and the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation in order to kick off this activity in the year of 2025. We see the great potential in this regard, because we are working right now with the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation in the area of the establishment of the platform for the All Water Initiative. This is a unique opportunity, not only for the development actors or the MDBs, but for the all stakeholders on how to avoid duplication, create synergies, and more importantly, to have a strategic vision in this regard. So I think the financial contribution as a grant from the Eurasian Development Bank, which we are planning to utilize in the next 4 years, will be one of the trigger for working in this area. So just overall, our next step is quite clear because we would like to engage private sector, academia, NGO for the development of new startups and making sure that those instruments are quite successfully implemented, not in Kazakhstan, but in the whole Central Asia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sukrob. Indeed, something that I am particularly fond of in the work of all UN agencies is that they make a huge effort to rope in as many stakeholders as possible. And I'm very excited for the pilot project that we're going to be doing in Kazakhstan this year. I think that it holds great potential for us to then scale up this practice in other Central Asian countries as well. Thank you once again. Now I would like to welcome our next speaker, Mr. Stanley Samkange, who is the Director of Multilateral and Program Country Partnerships at the UN World Food Programme. Today, Mr. Stanley will share his thoughts on the role of tripartite partnerships between international organizations, MDBs, and governments, and what that partnership can do, in essence, in terms of its potential for solving and overcoming challenges in the Central Asian region. Stanley, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anna-Marie, and thank you also, especially to the organizers, for giving me the opportunity to be here personally in Almaty. The last time I spoke to one of your conferences, it was virtually from Rome, so I'm happy to be here in person. I'd like to structure my remarks around three ways. One is just a little bit about WFP, what our approach is. I think we're not actually as well known as maybe we like to think, so just a few words on that. Second, why Central Asia is so important to us, but also important to global food security. And then third, why the relationship with the multilateral development banks is also critically important to us and how that has dramatically changed over the past 5 years. First, just a few words about WFP. We have annual revenues in the range of $10 billion a year. We are actually larger than UN peacekeeping, but that is against needs that are double that. So although it's a big number, in fact, the needs are much higher and the gap is growing. 70% of our work is focused on life-saving work. That's the work WFP is best known for. In emergencies, we do life-saving food assistance work. But 30% of our work is focused on resilience and root causes, and this is actually very critical. It's the part also that we think is important to increase, because only by strengthening work in resilience and root causes can we reduce the broader emergency and humanitarian numbers. Our focus and our strength is not really on the production side. Our colleagues in Rome, Food and Agriculture Organization, really specialize in that. But our focus is on what happens after the food is produced. How do people get the food that is being produced? And that's why increasingly we are focused on social protection, on means of distribution of food. Even in advanced economies in rich countries, special programs are often needed to ensure that what is available in a country is made available to all citizens. Central Asia is really critical for us for a number of reasons. We have country offices in Tajikistan, in Kyrgyz Republic, in Armenia also. Kazakhstan is actually a very important procurement source for us. We buy about $50 million a year worth of food commodities in Kazakhstan. Over the past 10 years, we've bought over $500 million from Kazakhstan alone, and we want to increase that because it helps diversify the sources of procurement for us, make us less dependent on a few sources globally. That's the discussion I had, in fact, in Astana a few days ago or yesterday, with the Ministry of Agriculture to see how we can help encourage local procurement in Kazakhstan. And third reason, and I would also mention that Russia also continues to be an important board member for us and an important donor for WFP. So we have a strong engagement with Central Asia, but also your experiences are important. In addressing food security, there's no one solution that works for everyone. So it's important to have a range and a variety of experiences that are brought to the table, and even countries that overall may still have food security challenges, but they may also have programs that are important to others and that others can learn from and benefit from. So for that reason, we feel these experiences and the knowledge that we get from our presence in the region is very important. It's also very important in the context of the recently launched G20 initiative, the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty, and I hope all countries in the region will join that global alliance. It was all G20 members joined the Global Alliance, which is no simple feat, but it is important to diversify the experiences. So we hope both countries in the region, but also institutions like the Eurasian Development Bank will also join the Global Alliance. I know the World Bank is already a part, Asian Development Bank, I believe Islamic Development Bank as well. Which brings me to the last point about why our relationship with the multilateral development banks is so important and how it has evolved, especially in the last 5 years. We've gone from having a relationship worth about 20 million a year in 2019 to a relationship with the multilateral development banks that is worth almost $1 billion a year now. The World Bank is the largest source of supply of resources that countries are drawing upon to work with WFP, but also the Asian Development Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, and others. We've recently signed an MOU with the Eurasian Development Bank, and this is an important space for us. It is what is needed if globally we are to reach to change the current dynamic and make more progress on issues related to food security and nutrition. What it does is it brings our capacities, our perspectives much closer together with the countries, because the IFIs finance country programs, and traditionally we haven't had the same kind of dialogue with IFIs and countries as is happening now. And this is really the critical thing. From us, we bring two perspectives to that engagement. One is to help countries and IFIs develop better, more effective food system and food security programs. That's a lot of the work we've been doing, for example, with the Islamic Development Bank. Resources actually have been less of a constraint. The constraint has been what actually works, what kind of projects to put in place, and this is where the collaboration with the IFIs is so important. Also, secondly, for us, it is to help link the logistics and the infrastructure investments that IFIs and countries are making across the board to the communities that often are not the immediate focus of this infrastructure, but that can benefit from this infrastructure in important ways, but it requires some effort, some adjustment, some planning. And that's the other component that we, the countries and the IFIs, have been able to do together, and why this relationship has changed and evolved so dramatically over the past 5 years. And that's what we're hoping also to do and expand with the Eurasian Development Bank. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Stanley. I think that your thoughts to a large extent resonate with what Mr. Podguzov said, and as well what Sukhrob mentioned, that firstly we need to pool resources, and resources, we're not just speaking about financial resources, we're speaking about knowledge as well, and I feel like the WFP really encapsulates that idea that working with the WFP, just due to the very nature of your organization, you need to get food to people fast, and that means that you are the most interested in counting the most effective ways and routes to get to those people. So I feel like there's a lot to see here, and there's a lot of potential to tap into. I'm very proud as well to announce, if I may, on the behalf of the Eurasian Development Bank, that we launched a project, a joint project this year with the World Food Programme, Milk to Schools in Armenia. And this is a classic example of how we kind of play off of each other's expertise and resources to make sure that we create larger impact. And we're tackling a very difficult issue of food security, but not just hunger, but in terms of how well the children are eating in Armenia. So it's very exciting to have started our partnership with your organization, and I would like to express my hope for future projects as well. Thank you very much once again, Stan Lake. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude our session today with our last speaker, I would like to introduce once again Ms. Wafa El Khouri, who is going to be joining us online today from Zoom. She is the Service Chief for the Near East, North Africa, Europe, and Central Asia Service at the FAO Investment Center. And today, she will be sharing her view on how to find solutions to the challenges related to food and water security in the region. Ms. El Khouri, I hope that you can hear us well. I would kindly ask for you to start your presentation. The floor is yours, and you have around 7 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Anna Maria, and thank you for EDB to have invited us to this meeting, which is extremely important. I'm glad to see a lot of our IFI colleagues around. So basically, I will be introducing what the FAO Investment Center does in the activities in Central Asia. I can't move my, sorry, but I'm trying to. It's not, sorry, but my slide is not moving forward, so I cannot.
Sorry, 2 seconds, Wafa. We'll deal with the technical issue.
Sorry, I've tried it many times. It's just today it's not moving. I don't know
Okay,
why.
please just signal to us when you need the next slide.
Okay, can I have the next slide, please? So just to briefly tell you that what the Investment Center is, we are a center within FAO that is dealing with partnering with international financial institutions to bring in the technical knowledge of FAO through the Investment Center, but not only, to get the technical knowledge and support the IFIs in the design, implementation support, as well as studies and assessments in their country investments. Just to try to, I can't. Okay. The Investment Center is actually the entry point. It is to the whole knowledge of FAO. We have many interdisciplinary, we're an interdisciplinary team. We have many staff and many long-term consultants. And we work in 4 different areas and solutions, what we call investment solutions. One is the investment planning, policy dialogue, and sector studies. The other one is in the public investments. Third is in this private investment. The innovative finance is the 4th. And then we have 2 accompanying solutions, which are the capacity for development for investment, as well as the knowledge for investment. Sorry, I needed to show you the various collaborators. Sorry, I'm sorry about that, but may I just stop sharing and then maybe start the process again very quickly?
Wafa, we've started to display the slides ourselves.
Sorry,
so you
I
can
don't
just
see, because, okay, I don't see them, that's my problem.
But you can stop sharing your screen.
Okay, now I see, no, that's fine, I can see that. Okay, let me just expand because I can't see my slides. Okay, so you can see that there are the 4 solutions and the 2 accompanying solutions. Can we move forward, please? Next slide, please. Okay, and the next slide. So we have the, can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so you can see here we can see here the various partners that we have. We work with the international financial institutions, regional and national development banks, specialized financial institutions, knowledge research and academia as partners, as well as country counterparts. The partners in the IFIs are many investors and financiers. In Central Asia specifically, we have the World Bank and IFAD and EBRD, as well as the Islamic Development Bank as one of the oldest collaborators, and we're looking forward to expand our collaboration with EDB and ADB, at least for the moment. We're trying to finalize agreements with them. Next, please. The main, to go back to the challenges, next slide. To go back to the main challenges, we have several, next, and we'll go very quickly through them. We have to balance, the most important thing is the population growth, economic growth, climate change, water scarcity, and land degradation. We've seen that with our previous speakers. Trade is very important, and the youth and modernization of the workforce is very important. Next, please. So in terms of population, next, and economic growth, the economic growth in Central Asia has mirrored that of the emerging markets and developing economies. One thing that has been mentioned is the importance of the geographic location of the Central Asian countries in terms of their proximity to Russia, China, South Asia, and the Middle East. And the economic drivers, while they are extraction of natural resources, the agricultural sector is extremely economically important. Next, please. So the economic growth per capita has been uneven in the region, and it was prone to shock. Especially, we can see that the pandemic has done quite a lot of impact. The next, please. But the population is set to grow, and with that growth, there will be a growth in the food demand and related pressures. Next. And with the economic development and growth, there will be a change in the different food consumption, higher and different style of food consumption. So these will be definitely challenges. Next. However, the most important challenge remains to be the climate change at this stage. Next. So we have, here you see Central Asia and Mongolia on the other side. Less rainfall and severe drought is increasing, which is putting a lot of risk at the rain-fed lands. Next. Very quickly, we'll go through them. There's a vast grassland of the Central Asian countries. So you can see Kyrgyzstan, all the yellow part is the grassland. Next. But these are suffering from declining productivity. And you see all the red and brown areas, which are really declining productivity of the grasslands. Next. And already with the high water scarcity in the region, there's also, next please, a lot of land limitations due to salinity for the poor irrigation and drainage problems. And these are all, next please, these are all important to take into consideration also when we're saying about the carbon footprint, and for example, how to really enhance in this case, the dairy sector, enhance or reduce our carbon dioxide footprints. Next, please. So the investment center, we work in partnership, I said, with the IFIs. So we bring in this case, we work, I'm talking about Central Asia, but the investment center works globally. And these are examples of projects or investment programs that we have worked with, or we are working with in the IFIs, and just give a few examples. Regional projects include, for example, the World Bank project on the One Health, in the region, EBRD on the horticultural value trade, high value trade opportunities, especially for the greenhouses in several countries. The World Bank irrigation, I think we have spoken about that. And then there's a new irrigation program that is ongoing now at the regional level. Next, please. We have done with the World Bank several public expenditure reviews, and now I think it's also expanding again to see how we can support the countries to repurpose their expenditures. Trade, besides the work that is being done on that was done on the policy note once we had the Ukraine war and on the trade and the regional trades. We have also now worked on the electronic phytosanitary certificates to support trade and digitalization of trade. We have the Environment and Climate Change. World Bank is working on a Resiland, which is a regional resilient landscape restoration project. Then we have a new project that is now ongoing with EBRD, with the private sector, facilitating investment in the energy, water, land nexus in Central Asia. Again, the nexus, as our colleague from the World Bank said, we need to unpack what that means. Next, please. I'm not going to go through these main areas, which are areas of work in the countries that all the various IFIs are doing and we're supporting in. Maybe important could be the trade opportunities, as well as the land, where land is the World Bank is the only IFI that works on land. Next, please. I think we'll stop here. This is my last slide. And I'm just saying to go back to the global challenges, which everybody indicated. Climate change and land degradation is a major challenge. And here, I think there's a need for sustainable land management and climate smart production and interventions, especially when we're talking about the livestock sector in Central Asia, which is very important, but it is actually, we're doing a lot of land degradation with that sector. Water stress, as my colleagues before me have said, it's extremely important. We need not only the infrastructure, but also the management of the water sector and the governance of the sector. Trade is a good opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity. However, we need to diversify as well as make sure that we have the proper agro-logistics and the proper food safety and security and the value chain efficiency. I would stop here. I'm sorry for next slide. It's just a thank you slide. And I just wanted to say that this is for your consumption later, just to see what have been done in the region over the last 2 years. I just would like to say that the advantage of the FAO and going through the investment center, but we are FAO, of course, and we collaborate with all the technical divisions of FAO, is that we get also what everybody was been saying, the global knowledge from various regions to bear on the investments that are being done by the IFIs. So we get the knowledge from Latin America, from the Africa, from various Asia, to really bring in that interaction and see how we can enhance our investments in a better way in the countries. Thank you, and I'm sorry for the disruption with the slides.
Thank you very much, Wafa. We'll take it as a sign that next year you should definitely come to visit us in person, and we'll make sure that we don't have any technical difficulties with your slides over here. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we have concluded the speakers for today. I know that the session has been long, but I hope that nonetheless it has given you many things to think about, some food for thought. As using my privilege as the moderator, I would like to ask if anybody from the audience has a question and offer the panelists, I can see that Mr. Chairman, Mr. Podguzov has a question, some chances to make some closing remarks as well. So, Mr. Chairman, we will start with you then.
Thank you very much, Anna Maria, for moderating us today. And I don't have a question, actually. I would like to say once again a big thank you for all panelists, for all guests of our today's discussion. Definitely, the global challenges are similar, and probably even local specific, it is different, but it is also very very similar in terms of approaches which could be implemented to overcome them. What is important to me? Everything is done by people, and it is very important to shape and to achieve mutual trust between people. Once people trust to each other, we will be able to listen to each other. We will be able to build the cooperation chain between global banks, sub-regional banks, regional banks, national governments, and finally execute something good projects to make lives of people better. And in this regard, it's very important that we are talking to each other every year at least. We know each other. We are ready to do something good with each other, because otherwise we will spend more time to get acquainted to each other, and probably without trust it will be difficult to implement any project. So thank you once again, and let's keep our community close and open for construction dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other panelists that would like to make some maybe closing remarks? Maybe we have some questions. Question, 2 questions. Okay, do we have a microphone that we could please pass on to? While we are waiting for the questions, I would kindly ask you to please introduce yourself before you ask the questions. And if the question is directly addressed to one of the panelists of our session 1, then I would kindly ask you to address the question to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Мирлан Алтынбек, 24 KZ. Менің сұрағым су және ирригация министріне арналады, вице-министріне, кешіріңіз. Жаңа ғана өз баяндамаңызда айтып қалдыңыз, мынау биыл енді су мөлшерден тыс көп болды ғой. Осыған байланысты мынау Қазақстанның батысында су қоймаларын көбейту жұмыстары жүргізу мүмкін бе? Осы Еуразиялық даму банкінің процестерін пайдаланып, сіздің тарапыңыздан, сіздің ведомство тарапынан сондай бір орысша айтқанда запростар еді, өтінімдер жүргізілді ме?
The question was asked in Kazakh language to Eurasian Development Bank, which way the water resources issues will be solved in Kazakhstan. Yes, we expected a high level of water, and there were floods. In 2023, during the flood, from our water storage facilities, we dispensed more than 23,000 cubic meters. But in this year, there were 36 cubic kilometers, not meters, this year, just in the beginning of the year. But for comparison, the potable water is 1 cubic kilometer. This is the water, potable water drunk by all population of Kazakhstan. Yes, it was not easy during the flood. And one of the main tasks for us is to restrict the water flood. We collaborated with the Ministry on Emergency Situations. Almost no victims. Yes, there were financial expenses. And in the riverbanks, there was a dense construction, and the water facilities helped us a lot. And also, let me mention that upon the results of our joint work in that days, we adopted a multifaceted action plan covering our activity till 2030 on dams, on the water channels, on the water storage facilities. We plan to build 42 water storage facilities, and for this year we made sanation and cleaning of 1,400 kilometers of water facilities, and we continue this water in the next period of time. So the work is going on in the strategic way and locally. We collaborate with local municipalities, and also the national irrigation channel systems are working well. During floods, they were redirecting the water into the water channel. And during the flash floods, we examined 1,500 hydrotechnical facilities, and some of them were dedicated for reparation, renovation, and any kind of flash flood, it's an extra load for the facility. And after each type of the flash flood, we perform separate monitoring and investigation. Now it is all stipulated in our multifaceted action plan. And we are going to introduce changes and digitalization as well. We believe it will be the basis to manage water resources. Like in any other sector, we cannot deal without modern technologies. And that's why one of the main directions is to digitalize and automate the process in the water resource management. Yes, we had some damage, but we are restoring those facilities. And there are many financial institutions, Islamic Development Bank, Asian Development Bank, Eurasian Development Bank, and other financial institutions supporting us in that work and projects. This work is going on. And also, there is an issue that water is the basis for the environmental issues, and many institutions are supporting the green agenda. And still, we would like to highlight that the basis for any agenda is the water and water resources. So we kindly invite to invest and finance the appropriate water projects, and probably on special terms and conditions. Thank you for your question. Thank you.
There was a young lady at the back of the hall. Yes, can we please present yourself, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Eugenia Klitschko, Eurasian Development Bank. So, dear speakers, many thanks. First of all, many thanks for your inspiring and insightful speeches today. While discussing global challenges through the local lenses, the climate change topic comes to our minds as its impacts are enormous and sometimes unpredictable. Impacts influencing infrastructure, well-being, social services, the way we operate now and the way we need to operate in future. It aggravates the other challenges that we were speaking today about, such as water scarcity, energy deficit, food security. And the MDBs that gather here today, they have both experience, resources, and will to make a difference here. And in this regard, I would like to use this opportunity to ask our MDBs representatives here, from your point of view, what kind of cooperation between MDBs is most needed to achieve both mitigation and adaptation targets? What areas should we focus on? What instruments to use to bring impressive climate results in Central Asia and gain more trust in our climate actions? Many thanks.
Thank you very much. If we can address this then maybe to Dimitri and Dr. Sami in terms of finding the balance between mitigation, adaptation, and how can MDBs work together to bring about impressive changes?
The Islamic Development Bank has very strong and productive relationships with the other MDBs, and we are very proud of this. When it comes to instruments, I would like to highlight some of the Islamic financial instruments, including Awqaf, the endowment in order to support food security and water security and energy security. One of the flagship projects that we are working on, creating Awqaf free zone that would provide essential resources for food and water and energy to the most vulnerable of our member countries. We are in the process, and I'm sure at one point in time we will be able to come and share our results. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Dimitri?
It's a very good question, and I think there was a lot of discussion today about the options and possibilities. For me, I think the most important is to, at the current moment, not 10 years ago, not 15 years ago, but now, to shift from kind of declarations and words to specific actions. And there are good examples on that, and I can kind of use the example of One Health, which the FAO colleagues already mentioned, which was basically the idea proposed by WHO, FAO, and Organization for Animal Health into a concept which was then shared by all 8 MDBs and the IFIs. And the countries of Central Asia prepared a joint proposal of all Central Asian countries together with international partners to the Pandemics Fund for a grant. And that grant was approved among very few grants during the stage 1 of the selection process. And it's now being implemented by 3 international organizations. Now that was expanded, we hope, would be expanded, we hope, next year through the World Bank operation, with large investment support to Tajikistan and Kyrgyz Republic and potentially other countries in the future. The climate co-benefits for that operation are 94%. So basically, we have very good record on how such investments, through initial idea of one organization, through the investment support of another, can emerge. And then the other element is the cooperation through CAREC, led by ADB, which has all policy documents agreed between countries on climate change, on transport connectivity, on sustainable development, on trade, which are very good documents. And here we basically agree on what should be done. So our job is done. The question is for the countries of Central Asia to coordinate their activities, to be specific and be practical in turning those commitments into the projects. And from my perspective, there are many elements there which requires, again, coordination between countries and the regional approach rather than country-specific approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dimitri and Dr. Sami. From what I can see, we have no more questions, and I know that we're moving rapidly towards lunchtime, so I propose not to drag the session out any longer. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you today, to thank all of the panelists that have gathered, to take a chance to thank the panelists in Zoom. I hope Wafa and Zulfi are still with us. Thank you to the audience today, because I feel like today we had a very insightful discussion that has offered us a lot of food for thought. We understand that we need to do more, we need to be bigger, we need to be better. We need to pool resources, and resources, it's not just about money, which is a thought that I really liked. It's about knowledge. Knowledge is the cure for poverty. So I feel like today we've heard a lot of things that we could really work with. And I would like to, in my capacity as the head of the International Department of the Eurasian Development Bank, I would like to call upon all the organizations that are present here today to say that we are ready, we are open, and we are highly inspired by today's discussion to work together to make positive change in the region. Speakers, please do not leave. We would like to take a group picture. We have the two ladies as well on the screen, so can I please ask the speakers to come to the screen? For everybody else, you are luckier. You get to the lunch line a little bit faster than the rest of us, so bon appetit, and we will reconvene at around 2 o'clock for session number 2. Thank you.